In the heart of North Carolina, where summer heat clings to the sidewalks like a forgotten memory, Roman Vale stood on his front porch, clutching an eviction notice with trembling hands. The paper felt heavy, heavier than the countless basketball trophies he and his childhood friend Michael had won together back in their glory days. But glory days don't pay the rent, and memories don't keep the lights on. 3 days, he whispered to himself, his voice barely audible over the distant sound of children playing basketball at the community court. The same court where he and Michael had first met, where their friendship had been forged through countless hours of one-on-one games and shared dreams of making it big. The world knew Michael Jordan as the greatest basketball player of all time. But to Roman, he was just Mike, the skinny kid who couldn't beat him in a game until they were 14. Life had taken them down different paths, one to unimaginable heights of success and fame, the other to a modest life teaching basketball to local kids and working odd jobs to make ends meet. Roman hadn't reached out to Michael in years. Pride, perhaps, or maybe, the growing distance that time inevitably places between old friends. He'd watched from afar as his childhood friend became a global icon, celebrating his victories silently, defending him fiercely when anyone dared criticize him in the local diner. "Mr. Vale," a young voice called out, interrupting his thoughts. It was Cyrus Bellamy, one of his students from the youth basketball program. "Are we still having practice today?" Roman quickly folded the eviction notice and tucked it into his back pocket, forcing a smile. "Of course we are, buddy. When have I ever canceled practice?" The truth was, today's practice would probably be their last. The community center where he coached was the only thing keeping him connected to the game he loved, the game that had once promised him everything. But with eviction looming, he'd likely have to leave town, find work elsewhere, leave behind the kids who looked up to him as their mentor. As he walked with Cyrus to the community center, Roman's mind drifted back to a conversation he'd had with Michael decades ago, sitting on this very sidewalk after a particularly grueling practice session. "One day," Michael had said, wiping sweat from his brow, "we're gonna make it big, Roman. Both of us. Promise me you'll never give up." "I promise," Roman had replied, believing it with all his heart. He had kept that promise, just not in the way either of them had imagined. While he hadn't made it to the NBA, he had never given up on basketball. Instead, he had given the game to others, teaching hundreds of kids over the years, showing them not just how to play, but how to love the sport that had shaped his life. The community center, Roman watched as his students filed in, each carrying their own dreams in their young hearts. There was Asher Doyle, whose quick footwork reminded him so much of a young Michael. Everett Stone, whose determination mirrored his own at that age. And little Quinn Fletcher, who couldn't make a basket to save his life, but showed up to every practice with unwavering enthusiasm. "All right, team," Roman called out, bouncing a worn basketball against the scuffed hardwood floor. "Let's make today count." The practice session was everything basketball should be, pure, joyful, full of effort and learning. Roman threw himself into every demonstration, every correction, every word of encouragement. If this was to be his last session with these kids, he wanted to make it matter. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows through the gym's high windows, Roman found himself lingering after practice. The kids had all gone home except for Cyrus, who was still shooting free throws in the fading light. "You know, Mr. Vale," Cyrus said between shots, "my dad says you could have played in the NBA, that you were as good as Michael Jordan when you were young." Roman chuckled, retrieving a rebound. "Your dad's being kind, but no one was as good as Michael. He had something special, something you couldn't teach or learn. But you know what? That's not what matters most. What matters most? What you do with the talent you have, how you use it to help others. Michael became the greatest player ever, and that's amazing. But you know what else is amazing? Helping someone else find their love for the game. Watching them grow, improve, believe in themselves." Cyrus nodded thoughtfully, then asked the question Roman had been dreading. "Will you be here tomorrow, Mr. Vale?" Roman held the basketball tight against his chest, feeling its familiar texture beneath his fingers. "I'll always be here in spirit. Cyrus, basketball's not about where you play, it's about how you play and what you give to the game." After Cyrus left, Roman sat alone in the darkening gym. The eviction notice felt like it was burning a hole in his pocket. 3 days. 3 days to figure out where he'd go, what he'd do, how he'd start over at his age. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through old photos. There was one from 30 years ago. Him and Michael, arms around each other's shoulders, both grinning wide after winning their high school championship. They looked so young, so full of promise and possibility. Roman hadn't known then that life would take them down such different paths. As he stared at the photo, a memory surfaced. Something Michael had said during their last one-on-one game. Before heading off to college, "No matter what happens, Roman, we're brothers. Basketball brought us together, but it's more than that. We push each other to be better on and off the court." Roman had never asked Michael for anything, had never tried to capitalize on their childhood friendship. He'd wanted to make it on his own terms, to prove to himself that he could. But now, with not just his home, but his purpose at stake, he wondered if it was finally time to swallow his pride. He opened his messaging app, fingers hovering over the keyboard. What would he even say? "Hey Mike, remember me? Your old friend who's about to be homeless?" The thought made him close the app immediately. No, he couldn't do it. Some bridges, once time has weathered them, are too difficult to cross. Instead, he began writing letters to each of his students, wanting to leave them with something more than just memories of basketball drills and coaching tips. He wrote about perseverance, about finding joy in the game regardless of skill level, about using sports as a way to build character and community. As he wrote, he realized that maybe this wasn't the end he'd been dreading, but rather a new beginning he hadn't yet imagined. Maybe losing everything would force him to find something new, something different, but equally meaningful. The gym's automatic lights clicked off, leaving him in darkness except for the glow of his phone. It was time to go home. Or what was. Home for the next 3 days at least. As he stood, his joints protesting the long day of practice, he heard the gym door open. "Mr. Vale." It was Jasper King, the community center's night janitor. "There's someone here to see you, says it's important." Roman checked his watch, nearly 9 p.m. Who would be looking for him at this hour? "They're waiting in the front office," Jasper added, his voice carrying an unusual note of excitement. Roman gathered his things, his mind racing through possibilities. Maybe it was the landlord, having second thoughts about the eviction. Maybe it was a parent concerned about his imminent departure. Maybe it was... He stopped in the hallway, his heart skipping a beat, as he saw a familiar silhouette through the office window. Even after all these years, he'd know that outline anywhere. The height, the stance, the way he held his head, some things never change. Taking a deep breath, Roman pushed open the office door, stepping into a moment that felt suspended between past and present, between what was and what could be. Sometimes, he realized, the hardest part of friendship isn't maintaining it through the years, but being vulnerable enough to reconnect when life has pulled you apart. The figure turned, and there he was. Michael Jordan, looking both exactly the same and completely different from the teenage boy in Roman's memories. And in that moment, before either of them spoke, Roman understood that some bonds transcend time, success, and circumstance. Some friendships, like the game of basketball itself, have the power to change lives in ways you never expect. Standing there in the dim light of the community center office, Roman Vale was no longer just a man facing eviction. He was a boy again, standing on a court with his best friend, both of them believing that anything was possible. And maybe, just maybe, it still was. The community center office seemed to shrink in the presence of Michael Jordan, but his smile was exactly as Roman remembered it, warm, genuine, with that hint of competitive fire that had never dimmed over the years. "You're a hard man to find, Roman," Michael said, stepping forward to embrace his old friend. "Had to ask half the town where you might be." Roman returned the hug, emotions threatening to overtake him. "Could have just checked any basketball court in the area. Some habits don't change." They pulled apart, each taking in the changes time had wrought on the other. Michael was dressed casually in jeans and a polo shirt, but there was no disguising who he was. His presence filled the room just as it had filled arenas around the world. "Heard you're still schooling kids on this court," Michael said, gesturing toward the gym. "Some things really don't change." Roman felt the eviction notice crinkle in his back pocket, a harsh reminder of just how much was about to change. "Yeah, well, might be wrapping that up soon. Time to try something new." Michael's expression shifted, the playful smile replaced by something more serious. "That's not what I heard. I heard you're being forced out. That's not the same thing as choosing to leave." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with unspoken history. Roman moved to the window, looking out at the darkened basketball court where they'd spent so many hours of their youth. "Remember that summer before high school?" Roman asked, changing the subject. "When your dad built that hoop in your backyard, and we played until your mom had to come out with a flashlight to make us stop? Remember?" Michael chuckled. "I still have scars on my elbows from diving for loose balls on that concrete. You never gave an inch, Roman. Never let me win, just because we were friends." "That's why you got better," Roman said softly. "Because I never let you win. You had to earn every victory." "And I never forgot that lesson," Michael replied, moving to stand beside him at the window. "Just like I never forgot my promise." Roman turned, confusion crossing his face. What promise? That we'd both make it big, different paths, same destination. And looking at this place, at those kids' faces when they talk about their Coach Vale, I'd say you made it pretty big in your own way. The words struck Roman deeply, touching a part of him that had always wondered if he'd somehow failed by not reaching the heights his friend had achieved. "About that," Michael continued, pulling out his phone, "I've been watching some videos. Seems like your students have been posting about their amazing coach online." He held up his phone, showing Roman a TikTok video. It was Cyrus Bellamy speaking directly to the camera. "This is for Michael Jordan. Our coach, Mr. Vale, is about to lose everything. He was your friend once. He's taught us not just basketball, but life. Please, if you see this..." Roman's throat tightened. They shouldn't have what? Cared about you, tried to help? That's what you taught them to do, isn't it? To look out for each other. Elias Kane, another student, appeared in a different video. Coach Vale never talks about it, but we found old pictures. He and Michael Jordan were best friends. Now he's being evicted, and our team is going to lose the best coach we've ever had. Video after video showed Roman's students sharing stories of his impact on their lives. Emmett Rhodes talking about how Roman had helped him overcome his fear of failure. Lyra Stone describing how he'd paid for her first pair of real basketball shoes when her family couldn't afford them. Bennett Knox explaining how Roman had helped him channel his anger into determination on the court. "Your students didn't just reach out to me," Michael said, putting his phone away. "They reached out to everyone. Local news, social media, basketball, in forums. They've been fighting for you while you've been too proud to fight for yourself." Roman sank into a nearby chair, overwhelmed. "I didn't want them to worry. They're just kids. Kids who love you. Kids who see in you what I saw all those years ago. Someone who makes others better just by believing in them." Michael leaned against the desk. "You remember what you said to me the night before I left for college?" Roman shook his head. "You said, don't forget about the joy of the game, all the money, all the fame that might come. It doesn't mean anything if you lose the joy." I carried those words with me through every championship, every defeat, every moment when the pressure felt too heavy. Tears threatened at the corners of Roman's eyes. "You remembered that?" I remembered everything, Roman, including how you were always there for me when I needed someone to remind me who I was, not who everyone wanted me to be. Michael straightened. Up. Now it's my turn to be there for you. He reached into his back pocket and pulled out a folded document. I bought your building. Roman stood up so quickly, his chair clattered backward. You what? The whole complex. And before you start protesting about pride and charity, this isn't either of those things. This is an investment in you, in these kids, in this community. Michael, I can't. You can, and you will, because I'm not just buying a building. I'm starting a youth basketball program, and I need a director who understands what this game can really do for kids. Someone who never lost the joy of the game, even when life tried to take everything else away. Roman stood speechless, his mind racing to process what he was hearing. The salary's good, Michael continued with a slight smirk. Benefits too. And the best part, the apartment comes with the job. No rent, no eviction notices, just you doing what you've always done best, making others better. Eden Locke, the community center's elderly receptionist, who had been quietly witnessing everything, wiped tears from her eyes. Oh, just say yes already, Roman. These old walls have been waiting for something like this. Roman looked around them. Office, at the faded posters of basketball legends on the walls, at the trophy case filled with modest achievements that meant the world to the kids who'd earned them. At his friend who had traveled so far from their shared beginnings but had never really left. The kids, Roman said finally, his voice rough with emotion. They really did all this? Reached out to you? They learned from the best, Michael replied. You taught them that sometimes the biggest assists happen off the court. Roman walked to the trophy case, touching the glass lightly. Inside was a faded photograph of him and Michael at their high school championship game, arms raised in victory. Beside it sat more recent photos, his students at tournaments, at practice, celebrating their own moments of triumph. You know what the hardest part of coaching is? Roman asked, not turning around. Letting them go, watching them move on, hoping you've given them enough to carry forward. Then maybe it's time to build something they can come back to, Michael said. Something permanent, something that carries your legacy forward. Roman turned back to his old friend, years of shared history passing between them in a single look. You really want to do this? Start a program here? Already done. The paperwork signed, the funding's in place. All we need is the heart and soul of it all. The person who never lost sight of what basketball can really do for a kid who needs direction, hope, purpose. A knock at the office door interrupted them. It was Cyrus Bellamy again, still in his practice clothes. Mr. Vale, I forgot my... He stopped short, his eyes widening as he recognized Michael Jordan. Oh my God, Michael smiled. You must be Cyrus. I saw your video. Pretty powerful stuff. The boy stood frozen, looking between his coach and his basketball idol. We couldn't let Coach Vale leave. He's more than just a coach, he's family, Roman finished softly, the word carrying the weight of revelation. He looked at Michael, then back at Cyrus, and finally understood what had been built here. Practice one lesson, one life at a time. So, Michael said, extending his hand. What do you say, old friend? Ready to make some more history? Roman looked at the hand offered to him, the same hand that had helped him up countless times on dusty basketball courts, the same hand that had lifted championship trophies and changed the sport forever. But most importantly, the same hand that was now offering him a chance to continue doing what he loved most. On one condition, Roman said, a familiar competitive glint in his eye. First one to 21 on the court, just like old times. Michael's face split into that legendary grin. You never did learn to just take the win, did you? You never would have become the GOAT if I had. Cyrus bounced excitedly. Can I watch, please? Watch? Michael laughed. Kid, you're gonna referee. Someone needs to make sure your coach here doesn't bend the rules like he used to. As they walked toward the gym, Roman felt the weight of the eviction notice in his pocket becoming lighter with each step. Sometimes life's greatest assists come when you least expect them, from the people who knew you before you knew yourself. The automatic lights in the gym clicked on, illuminating the court where so many dreams had taken flight. As Roman picked up a basketball, feeling its familiar grip, he realized that some things in life come full circle. Not in the way you expect, but in the way you need. "Check ball?" he called out, bouncing the ball to Michael. "Check ball," Michael replied, the words echoing off the walls like memories coming home to roost. And in that moment, as Cyrus watched with wide-eyed wonder, two old friends began to play, proving that while time changes many things, it never changes what matters most: the love of the game, the strength of friendship, and the power of never giving up on either. By morning, news of Michael Jordan's midnight basketball game at the community center had spread through the town like wildfire. Maddox Reed, the local newspaper photographer, had captured the historic moment through the gym windows. Two old friends, playing one-on-one as if time had never passed. Roman arrived early at the center, expecting a normal day of practice. Instead, he found a crowd of his students and their parents waiting outside, along with several news vans and a gathering of curious onlookers. "Coach Vale," Callum Ford called out, running up to him with a newspaper in hand. "You're on the front page." The headline read, "A friend indeed. NBA legend Michael Jordan saves local youth program." Below it was Maddox's photo. Roman and Michael in mid-game, both grinning like teenagers, with Cyrus watching from the sidelines. "Is it true?" Felix Mercer's mother asked, stepping forward from the crowd. "About the program becoming permanent?" Roman nodded, still processing the events of the previous night himself. "It's true. Michael's establishing a full youth basketball foundation here. The community center will be its first location." A cheer went up from the gathered crowd. August Klein, one of Roman's youngest students, pushed through to hug him tightly. "Does this mean you're staying, coach?" "Yeah, buddy," Roman said, ruffling the boy's hair. "I'm staying." Inside the center, Roman found Michael waiting in the office with a team of professionals, architects, program coordinators, and community outreach specialists. The scale of what was happening began to sink in. "Hope you don't mind," Michael said, greeting him with a warm handshake. "Thought we'd get an early start on transforming this place." Isla Vance, a renowned sports facility architect, spread out blueprints on the desk. "We're thinking of expanding the main court, adding bleachers, and creating additional training spaces. But Mr. Jordan insisted we get your input first, Mr. Vale. You know this place better than anyone." Roman studied the plans, his coaching instincts kicking in. "The kids need a study area. Basketball's important, but education comes first. That's always been our rule here." Michael nodded approvingly. "Already thinking like a program director. What else?" For the next hour, Roman walked them through his vision, not just for the facility, but for the program itself. He talked about mentorship opportunities, academic support, and community involvement. Years of working with local youth had taught him that basketball was just the beginning. It was the relationships and life lessons that really changed lives. "We'll need more coaches," Roman said, thinking out loud. "Good ones who understand it's not just about winning games." "Already on it," Michael replied. "Called in some favors. You'll have former pros and experienced youth coaches wanting to learn from you." Roman raised an eyebrow. "Learn from me, Michael? I never even played college ball." "No, but you've got something better. 30 years of changing lives through this game. That's what we want to replicate." As they talked, more students began arriving for what would have been regular practice. Elodie Carr poked her head into the office, eyes widening at the sight of Michael Jordan. Coach Vale?" Everyone's here. Should we still practice today? Roman looked at Michael, who grinned. Why don't we show them what the future looks like? They gathered everyone in the gym, students, parents, staff, and even some of the media who had been waiting outside. Michael stood at center court with Roman, addressing the crowd. When I was 13 years old, Michael began, his voice carrying to every corner of the gym, I wasn't the best player on this court. That honor belonged to the man standing next to me. Roman Vale taught me something valuable back then, that basketball isn't just about who scores the most points. It's about who makes everyone around them better. He gestured to the blueprints now displayed on easels around the court. This facility is going to change, but its heart and soul will remain the same, because the real magic of this place isn't in the building. It's in the man who never gave up on any kid who walked through those doors. Celeste Quinn, one of Roman's former students who now played college basketball, stood up from the bleachers. Coach Vale gave me my first real shot. When everyone else said I was too short to play point guard, he said height doesn't measure art. Now I'm on a full scholarship, and it's all because he believed in me. More students began sharing stories. Eden Locke spoke about how Roman had helped her grandson find purpose through basketball after losing his parents. Ivy Sinclair talked about how the community center had become a second home for her daughter. Each story added another layer to the legacy Roman had built, often without even realizing it. The Michael Jordan Youth Basketball Foundation isn't just about creating better players, Michael continued. It's about creating better people. And that's why Roman Vale isn't just going to run this location. He's going to help us establish programs like this across the country. Roman's head snapped up. This was news to him. What? Michael smiled. You didn't think we'd keep all this wisdom in one place, did you? We need you to train other coaches, share your methodology, help us build something bigger than any one community center. The magnitude of the opportunity began to sink in. Roman looked around at the faces in the crowd, his students past and present, their families, the community that had become his own. Clara Hartley, the center's elderly bookkeeper, wiped tears from her eyes. I always said you were meant for bigger things, Roman. Looks like bigger things finally found you. As the crowd dispersed and the excitement of the announcement settled, Roman found himself back in his small office, looking at the old photos on his wall. Michael joined him, closing the door to give them a moment of privacy. You okay? Michael asked. I know it's a lot to take in. Roman picked up a team photo from 15 years ago. See this kid here? He pointed to a sullen-looking boy in the back row. Luca Donovan. His father was in prison, his mother was working 3 jobs. Basketball was the only thing keeping him off the streets. Today he's a high school coach himself, doing for other kids what we did for him. That's exactly why we need you to help us expand, Michael said softly. Think about how many more Luca Donovans are out there, waiting for someone to believe in them. Roman set the photo down carefully. You remember what Coach Thompson used to tell us? A good coach can change a game, but a great coach can change a life. And you've been changing lives here for decades, Michael replied. Now it's time to teach others how to do the same. A knock at the door interrupted them. It was Cyrus Bellamy again, but this time he wasn't alone. Behind him stood at least 20 other students, all holding basketballs. Sorry to interrupt, Cyrus said, but we were wondering, since it's such a special day and all, maybe we could see you two play again? A real game this time? Michael laughed. What do you say, Roman? Ready to show these kids how we used to do it? Roman grabbed his old basketball from behind the desk. Winners take North Court, losers run laps? Just like old times, Michael grinned. But this time, let's make it interesting. Your students against mine. We each coach a team. The kids erupted in excitement. Roman looked at his friend, seeing not the global icon or the businessman, but the boy who had pushed him to be better every single day. Deal, Roman said. But I get Cyrus on my team. As they organized the kids into teams, Roman felt a profound sense of rightness settle over him. This was what basketball was always meant to be. A bridge between generations, a teacher of life's most important lessons, a maker of memories that would last long after the final buzzer. The eviction notice that had weighed so heavily in his pocket just yesterday was now nothing more than a reminder that sometimes life's greatest challenges lead to its greatest opportunities. As he watched Michael demonstrating a crossover dribble to an awestruck group of kids, Roman realized that his promise to never give up on the game had led him exactly where he needed to be. "All right, teams," he called out, bouncing the ball with renewed energy. "Let's show these legends how we play ball in 2025. The sound of squeaking sneakers and bouncing basketballs filled the gym once again. But this time, it carried the echo of both history and future. A symphony of possibility that Roman Vale had been conducting all along, even when he thought he was just teaching kids how to play a game. The next morning dawned with a sense of possibility that seemed to electrify the entire community. Construction crews had already begun preliminary work on the community center's renovation, but Roman insisted that regular practices continue amid the controlled chaos. "Basketball doesn't wait for perfect conditions," he told his students as they navigated around architectural markers and equipment. Lyra Stone arrived early, carrying a stack of local newspapers. "Coach, you've got to see this." She spread them out on the bleachers, revealing multiple stories about the foundation's launch. One headline caught Roman's eye: "From Eviction to Evolution, Local Coaches Impact Sparks National Movement." "The phones haven't stopped ringing," said Nova Wren, the center's new administrative assistant Michael had hired. "We've got inquiries from 40 different cities already, all wanting to know how they can get a program like yours." Roman was reviewing the messages when Elias Kane burst through the doors, out of breath and excited. "Coach, you've got to come outside. There's something you need to see." Outside, a line of cars stretched down the street. Families were getting out, many with kids carrying basketballs and wearing Jordan brand gear. Roman recognized some faces from neighboring towns, but others had clearly traveled much further. "We saw the news," one father said, approaching Roman. "Drove 6 hours to get here. My son's been struggling since his mother passed, and when we saw your story, how you use basketball to change lives, well, we had to come." The boy beside him, no more than 12, clutched a basketball like a lifeline. Roman knelt down to his level. "What's your name, son?" "Rowan Blair," the boy answered softly. "Well, Rowan, you've come to the right place. We've got a pretty special game here that helps with all kinds of struggles. Want to show me what you've got?" As Rowan's face lit up, Michael Jordan's car pulled into the parking lot. He stepped out, accompanied by several former NBA players who had agreed to help launch the foundation's mentorship program. "Looks like word's getting out," Michael observed, taking in the growing crowd. "We're not even officially open yet," Roman replied, watching as his regular students began introducing themselves to the newcomers, naturally falling into the role of hosts and guides. "When something's real, people feel it," Michael said. "They know it's not just about basketball." Inside the gym, Roman students were already organizing impromptu games, integrating the visiting kids into their usual practice routines. Cyrus Bellamy had taken Rowan under his wing, showing him basic dribbling techniques with the patience of a seasoned mentor. "See that?" Roman pointed out to Michael. "That's what we're really building here: leadership, empathy, connection." Cyrus was just like Rowan 2 years ago, barely spoke, couldn't look anyone in the eye. Now look at him. The former NBA players spread out across the court, offering tips and encouragement. But what truly caught Roman's attention was how his regular students were holding their own as leaders, demonstrating the principles he'd taught them about making others feel welcome and valued. Juniper Cross, one of his most improved players, was working with a group of girls who had never played organized basketball before. "It's okay to make mistakes," he heard her say. "Coach Vale always tells us that's how we learn. Want to try that layup again?" As the morning progressed, Roman noticed something remarkable happening. The initial awe of being in the presence of NBA legends was being replaced by something more meaningful. Genuine connections forming between kids who just hours ago had been strangers. Delilah Wynn, a shy girl who had driven in from 3 towns over, was now laughing with Iris Lennox as they practiced passing drills. Peyton Hale, a boy who arrived looking lost and uncertain, was now confidently demonstrating his developing jump shot to an appreciative audience. Michael pulled Roman aside during a water break. "This is exactly what I hoped would happen. Look, around, every kid in here has forgotten about their problems, their differences, their doubts. They're just playing ball and finding themselves in the process." Roman nodded, watching as Rowan Blair, who had arrived clutching his basketball like a shield, was now actively participating in a pickup game, calling for passes and even cracking occasional smiles. "We need to document this," Michael continued, "not just for publicity, but as a blueprint. Other locations need to see that it's not about fancy facilities or star power. It's about creating an environment where kids feel safe to be themselves and grow." Throughout the day, more people arrived. Local business owners showed up with donations of equipment and refreshments. Former students who had heard the news came to offer their help as volunteer coaches. Even the mayor stopped by, pledging the city's full support for the expanding program. During a quiet moment, Roman found himself in his soon-to-be renovated office with Cyrus Bellamy, who had become something of a right-hand man during the whirlwind of changes. "Coach," Cyrus said, watching the continuing activities through the window, "remember when you told us that basketball is like life? It's not about who's the most talented, but who makes the best use of what they have." "I remember. I think I finally understand what you meant. All these new kids coming in, they're not all going to be great players, but they can all be part of something great." Roman smiled, recognizing his own philosophy reflected back at him through his students' wisdom. "When did you get so insightful, Cyrus?" "Learned from the best, coach." "We all did." As evening approached, Roman gathered everyone in the gym for what had become a daily tradition, the lesson of the day. Usually it was just for his regular students, but today the bleachers were packed with visitors, parents, and basketball legends alike. "Today's lesson," Roman began, his voice carrying across the hushed gym, "isn't about dribbling, shooting, or defense. It's about something I learned many years ago playing one-on-one with a skinny kid named Michael Jordan." Michael chuckled from his spot in the bleachers as Roman continued. "I learned that basketball is just a tool, a powerful one, but still just a tool. What matters is how we use it. Today, I watched strangers become friends. I saw confidence replace fear. I witnessed leadership emerge from unexpected places. That's the real magic of this game." He gestured to Rowan Blair, who had stayed for the entire day. "Some of you came here looking for basketball lessons, but you're going to find something much more valuable. A community that believes in you, supports you, and challenges you to be your best self." The boy who had arrived, clutching his basketball like a shield, now sat surrounded by new friends, his posture relaxed, his eyes bright with possibility. "Starting tomorrow," Roman announced, "we're going to have a new schedule to accommodate everyone who wants to be part of this program. No one gets turned away. If you can't afford equipment, we'll provide it. If you need extra help, you'll get it. If you're struggling with things outside of basketball, we're here for that too." He paused, looking at the faces before him. Young and old, local and distant, legendary and unknown. Because that's what my friend Michael Jordan reminded me yesterday. We're not just building a basketball program, we're building a family. As the crowd began to disperse for the day, Roman noticed Rowan and his father hanging back. The father approached, emotion evident in his voice. "Mr. Vale, I haven't seen my son smile like this since his mother passed. Would it be possible for us to relocate here? I can find work anywhere, and after what I've seen today..." Roman looked at Michael, who nodded imperceptibly. "We'll help you figure it out," Roman assured him. "That's what family does." Later that night, after everyone had gone home and the gym had fallen quiet, Roman and Michael sat on the bleachers, much like they had as teenagers. "You know what amazes me?" Michael said, breaking the comfortable silence. "Yesterday you thought you were losing everything. Today you've gained a whole new purpose." Roman nodded, looking around the gym that had been his home for so long. "You didn't just save my job, Michael. You helped me understand why I've been doing it all these years." "No," Michael corrected him. "You helped me remember why this game matters in the first place. All those championships, records, and accolades, they don't compare to what I saw happen in this gym today." As they sat there, two old friends united by a game that had shaped their lives in vastly different but equally meaningful ways, the future seemed to stretch out before them like an open court, full of possibilities and promise. "Tomorrow's going to be even busier," Michael warned. "The national media's catching wind of this. They're calling it a revolution in youth sports." Roman smiled, thinking of Rowan Blair's transformation in just one day. "Let them come. The more people who see this, the more lives we can change." "Just promise me one thing," Michael said, standing to leave. "Don't ever lose that pickup game spirit. That's what makes this place special. It's not about the name on the building or the celebrities who might walk through those doors. It's about making every kid feel like they belong here." "That's a promise I can keep," Roman replied, thinking of all the lives that had been touched within these walls and all those yet to come. "After all, it's what you taught me all those years ago. It's not just about the game, it's about who you become while playing it." The transformation of the community center continued at a breathtaking pace, but Roman insisted on maintaining the heart of the program even as its scope expanded. 1 week after Michael's surprise visit, the gym was alive with activity despite the ongoing renovations. Contractors worked around the practice schedules, understanding that the real construction wasn't happening to the building. It was happening in the lives of the kids who called it home. Dahlia Rhodes, a local news reporter who had been covering the story since day one, sat in the bleachers with her camera, documenting what she called the miracle on Maple Street. She watched as Roman moved from group to group, his attention fully focused on each individual despite the chaos around him. "Coach Vale," called out Zara Monroe, one of his newer students who had started coming after seeing the viral videos. "Can you show me that defensive stance again? The one you said Michael Jordan used to struggle with?" Roman demonstrated the stance, sharing the story of how he and Michael had spent countless hours perfecting their defensive techniques. The other kids gathered around, drawn not just by the mention of Michael Jordan, but by the way Roman made every lesson feel like a shared secret, a piece of basketball wisdom passed down through generations. Suddenly, the gym doors burst open. Stella Ashford, one of Roman's former students from 15 years ago, rushed in with tears in her eyes. Behind her came her son, Phoenix Wilder, clutching a basketball and looking uncertain. "Coach Vale," Stella called out, her voice breaking. "I'm sorry to interrupt practice, but they're closing down the youth center in Millbrook. Phoenix has been playing there since he was 5, and now..." Roman understood immediately. Millbrook was a struggling community 30 miles away, the kind of place where kids needed basketball more than ever. He looked at Phoenix, seeing the same lost look he'd seen in countless young faces over the years. "Phoenix," Roman said, kneeling, "down to the boys' level. How would you like to show us what you've learned at Millbrook?" The boy's eyes lit up slightly. "Really, really." Cyrus, can you set up a quick 3-on-3? Let's see what our new friend can do. As Phoenix joined the game, Roman pulled Stella aside. How many kids are being displaced by the closure? At least 30, she replied, watching her son begin to play. Most of them can't afford traditional sports programs. The center was all they had. Roman nodded, already forming a plan. He caught Michael's eye across the gym. His friend had been making daily visits to help coordinate the foundation's expansion. A silent understanding passed between them. Tell them all to come, Roman said. We'll figure out transportation, equipment, whatever they need. No kid loses their game on our watch. The news spread quickly through the basketball community. By afternoon, several parents from Millbrook had arrived, desperate to find a new home for their children's hoop dreams. Among them was Wren Holloway, a single mother of 3 who had been volunteering at the Millbrook Center. They say sports funding isn't essential, she said bitterly, watching her children tentatively join the practice sessions. They don't understand that for some kids, it's the only thing keeping them going. Michael, who had been listening, stepped forward. Maybe it's time they understood. He turned to Roman. Remember what we talked about? Taking this nationwide. Roman nodded. Millbrook's exactly the kind of community we need to reach. Then let's make them our next location, Michael declared. We'll need someone who knows the community, someone who's already invested in these kids' lives. He looked meaningfully at Wren. Her eyes widened. Me? But I'm not a professional coach. Neither was I, Roman interjected. What matters is understanding that basketball is more than just a game. From what I've seen today, you get that better than most. As they discussed the possibilities, Phoenix Wilder was transforming on the court. The uncertain boy who had walked in an hour ago was now calling plays, encouraging teammates, showing the kind of leadership that only comes from feeling truly welcome. Dahlia Rhodes approached Roman with her camera. Would you mind if I documented this? The world needs to see what's really happening here. Roman agreed, and over the next few hours, Dahlia captured moment after moment of pure basketball magic. She filmed as Roman worked with Phoenix on his jump shot, each small improvement celebrated by his new teammates. She recorded Wren organizing the younger kids into practice groups, her natural teaching ability shining through. But the most powerful moment came when Rowan Blair, who had found his confidence in the previous days, approached Phoenix during a water break. I know how it feels, Rowan said quietly. When I first came here, I thought I was losing everything too, but Coach Vale shows us that basketball isn't just about where you play, it's about who you become while playing. Phoenix looked up, surprise and hope mixing in his expression. Really, Rowan confirmed. Watch this. He proceeded to show Phoenix the defensive stance he'd learned, the very same one Roman had taught using the Michael Jordan story. Roman watched the interaction with pride, nudging Michael. See, that's how we build something lasting, one connection at a time. As evening approached, the gym was still buzzing with energy. The Millbrook kids had integrated seamlessly with the regular students, their shared love of basketball erasing any initial awkwardness. Parents who had arrived looking worried now sat in the bleachers with relieved smiles, watching their children find a new basketball home. Wren Holloway gathered her 3 kids, preparing to head back to Millbrook, but Roman stopped her. Wait, up a minute. He handed her a folder. These are my lesson plans from the last 20 years, training schedules, drills, but more importantly, notes on how to reach kids through basketball. Michael's right, you're exactly what Millbrook needs. Tears welled in her eyes as she took the folder. I don't know what to say. Say you'll help us prove that basketball can save more than just games. Say you'll be part of building something bigger than all of us. She nodded, clutching the folder like a precious artifact. When do we start? We already have, Michael said, joining them. "The Foundation's lawyers are negotiating to keep the Millbrook Center open, with you as the director and Roman providing guidance. We'll make it even better than before." News spread through the gym like wildfire. Phoenix Wilder ran to his mother, his face glowing with excitement. "Does this mean we get to keep playing?" "It means more than that," Stella told him, hugging him close. "It means you're part of something special." As the day wound down, Roman gathered everyone for the daily closing circle, a tradition that had become even more meaningful with the influx of new faces. "Today's lesson," he began, looking around the circle at faces both familiar and new, "is about loss and gain. Sometimes what feels like an ending is really just a new beginning in disguise. The Millbrook Center closing felt like a loss, but look what it brought us. New friends, new opportunities, new possibilities." He gestured to Phoenix and the other Millbrook kids. "You came here thinking you were losing your basketball home. Instead, you're helping us build a bigger home, one that can shelter more dreams, nurture more talent, change more lives." Michael stepped into the circle. "Starting tomorrow, we're not just saving one community center, we're creating a network of them, connected by more than just basketball. Every kid who wants to play will have a place to play. Every community that needs hope will find it through this game." The circle grew quiet as his words sank in. Then Phoenix raised his hand. "Coach Vale, can we show them our Millbrook cheer, the one we used to do before games?" Roman smiled. "Lead the way, Phoenix." The boys started a rhythmic clap, and soon the entire gym was following along, the sound of hundreds of hands coming together in perfect synchronization. The Millbrook cheer merged with the traditional end-of-practice routine, creating something new and powerful, a symbol of communities coming together through the game they loved. Later, as the last families were leaving, Roman found himself alone with Michael in the office, looking at the growing pile of registration forms from new students. "You know what this reminds me of?" Michael asked, picking up one of the forms. "That summer when your dad let us use your driveway for the neighborhood tournament. Remember how kids we'd never met just kept showing up to play?" Roman laughed at the memory. "Mom kept making more and more lemonade, worried they'd get dehydrated. Dad had to put up a second hoop just to handle all the games. That's what we're doing here," Michael said, gesturing to the forms, "just on a bigger scale, creating spaces where kids can show up, be themselves, and find their game." Roman picked up Phoenix's registration form, remembering the transformation he'd witnessed in just one day. It's amazing how resilient they are. Give them a chance, a little guidance, and watch them soar. "Speaking of soaring," Michael said with a grin, "wait until you see what's coming tomorrow. The renovation crew has something special planned for the main court." But Roman was only half listening, his attention caught by a note Phoenix had scrawled at the bottom of his form. "Thank you for saving basketball for us." "We're not just saving basketball," Roman said softly. "We're saving hope, one game at a time." Outside, the sound of basketballs could still be heard as a few dedicated players worked on their games under the parking lot lights. The community center might have been closing for the night, but its heart, the steady rhythm of bouncing balls and squeaking sneakers, beat on, stronger than ever. 1 month after Michael Jordan's unexpected visit, the community center was ready for its grand reopening. The renovation crews had worked miracles, transforming the aging facility into a state-of-the-art basketball haven while somehow preserving its soul. Roman arrived before dawn, just as he had done every day for the past 30 years. But this time he wasn't alone. Cyrus Bellamy was waiting at the door, along with Rowan Blair, Phoenix Wilder, and several other students who had become the heart of this growing basketball family. They had insisted on being there early to help prepare for the day's celebrations. "Looking sharp, Coach," Cyrus said, noting Roman's new foundation jacket, deep blue with Vale Youth Basketball Director, embroidered in silver threading. Roman adjusted the jacket self-consciously. "Your idea to get here early?" "Actually," said a familiar voice behind him, "that was my idea." Michael Jordan stepped out of the shadows, dressed casually but radiating the same competitive energy that had defined their youth. "Thought we might want to break in the new court before everyone arrives, for old time's sake." The kid's eyes lit up at the prospect of witnessing another historic one-on-one match, but Roman noticed something different in their excitement now. Not just awe at seeing a legend, but genuine appreciation for the game itself and what it represented. Inside, the transformation was breathtaking. The main court gleamed under new lighting, its surface adorned with a special design that incorporated elements from both Roman's and Michael's high school playing days. The walls displayed photos of not just basketball legends, but of local heroes, former students who had gone on to become coaches, teachers, and community leaders. "Check this out," Michael said, leading them to a special section of the wall. There, larger than life, was the photo of teenage Roman and Michael after their high school championship win. Beside it hung the eviction notice that had started this whole journey, now framed as a reminder that even the darkest moments can lead to light. As they warmed up for their friendly game, people began arriving early for the ceremony. Ren Holloway came with news from Millbrook. Their center was not only staying open, but thriving under the foundation's guidance. Eden Locke brought fresh coffee and her famous homemade energy bars, just as she had done for Roman's early morning. Practices for years. The game itself was different from their midnight match a month ago. This time, they played not just for themselves, but for the kids watching, demonstrating fundamentals, sharing stories between plays, turning every moment into a lesson. "Your coach here," Michael called out during a water break, "taught me something crucial about defense when we were kids. Want to know what it was?" The students gathered closer, eager to learn. But it was Roman who finished the story. "I taught him that defense isn't about stopping someone. It's about making them bring out their very best, because that's how everyone gets better." By the time the official ceremony was set to begin, the gym was packed. Local families mingled with basketball dignitaries, former students stood alongside current ones, and reporters from national networks set up their cameras to capture the moment. Isla Vance, who had led the renovation project, took Roman on a final tour. "We added something special," she said, leading him to a quiet corner of the facility. There, a small room had been transformed into a study area, its walls lined with books about basketball, leadership, and personal growth. A plaque on the door read, "The Vale Library where game meets growth." "Michael insisted," she explained, "said you always emphasized that basketball was just the beginning. It's what you learn while playing that really matters." The official ceremony began with Michael Jordan addressing the crowd, but he quickly handed the microphone to someone else, Damian Wells, Roman's very first student from 30 years ago, now a successful high school coach himself. "Coach Vale taught me how to dribble when I was 8 years old," Damian began, emotion thick in his voice. "But more importantly, he taught me how to believe in myself. That lesson helped me through my parents' divorce, through college, through every challenge life threw at me. Today, I teach my own students the same thing. Basketball is just the tool, character is the goal." More speakers followed. Julian Frost, who had found direction through Roman's program after losing his way. Wyatt Maddox, whose natural leadership abilities had blossomed under Roman's guidance. Silas Drake, who had returned to volunteer as an assistant coach while pursuing his teaching degree. Then came the current students. Phoenix Wilder, no longer the uncertain boy who had arrived a month ago, spoke about how losing his basketball home had led him to find a bigger family. Rowan Blair shared how the program had helped him cope with grief, turning his pain into purpose. When it was Roman's turn to speak, he took a moment to look around the gym. In the faces before him, he saw not just the past month's whirlwind of Changes, but 3 decades of lives touched, lessons learned and dreams nurtured. 30 years ago, he began, his voice steady despite his emotion, I thought my basketball dreams had ended when I didn't make it to the college level. I was wrong. They were just beginning, because sometimes the dream you think you're chasing isn't the one you're meant to catch. He gestured to the renovated facility around them. This building is beautiful, and we're grateful for it. But the real beauty isn't in the new paint or the shiny floors. It's in what happens here. It's in the kid who finds their confidence, the teenager who discovers their leadership abilities, the community that comes together through this game we love. Michael joined him at the podium, bringing with him a covered display. Which is why, he said, unveiling it, the Michael Jordan Youth Basketball Foundation will now be known as the Jordan Vale Youth Basketball Foundation, because this isn't just about my name or my success. It's about the kind of impact Roman has been quietly making for 30 years. The crowd erupted in applause as the new logo was revealed. A design that incorporated elements of both their playing styles, symbolizing the perfect blend of flash and fundamentals, of stardom and substance. But the ceremony's most powerful moment came from an unexpected source. Cyrus Bellamy approached the podium, carrying a basketball that had clearly seen better days. This ball, he said, holding it up, was the first one Coach Vale ever gave me. I was angry back then, acting out, causing trouble. He didn't just give me a ball. He gave me a purpose. When I heard he was facing eviction, I started those social media posts because I couldn't bear the thought of other kids missing out on what he gave me. Cyrus turned to Roman. You taught us that basketball is about more than winning games. It's about winning in life. And now, thanks to you and Mr. Jordan, kids everywhere will have the chance to learn that lesson. The formal ceremony transitioned into a community celebration. Exhibition games featuring current and former students filled the court. Coaching clinics ran in the practice areas. The Vale Library hosted reading sessions where older students shared basketball books with younger ones. As evening approached, Roman found himself back in his office, now modernized but still maintaining touches of its original character. Michael joined him, carrying 2 bottles of water. Remember what you said to me the night before I left for college? Michael asked, tossing Roman a bottle. About not forgetting the joy of the game? Roman nodded. Never thought those words would lead to all this. That's the thing about truth. It has a way of growing beyond what we imagine. Michael looked out the office window at the continued celebrations. You know, I've won championships, gold medals, set records. But being part of this, seeing what basketball can really do in the right hands, this might be the best game I've ever been part of. A knock at the door interrupted them. It was Rowan Blair's father. Sorry to interrupt, but Rowan wanted to show you something before we left. They followed him to the main court, where Rowan stood with Phoenix, Cyrus, and several other students. Together, they had choreographed a basketball drill routine, incorporating elements from both Roman's fundamental teachings and Michael's signature moves. As they watched the performance, Roman felt the full weight of what had been created here. It wasn't just a basketball program or a foundation. It was a legacy of hope, a testament to the power of never giving up on dreams, even when they take unexpected forms. You know what's amazing? Michael said softly. A month ago, these kids were strangers from different communities. Now look at them. Roman smiled, watching as the students seamlessly worked together, each contributing their own style to the collective performance. That's basketball at its best. It brings people together, breaks down barriers, shows us what's possible when we believe in each other. The day ended as it had begun, with Roman and Michael on the court, but this time surrounded by the next generation of players and dreamers. As they shot baskets in the fading light, their students watching and learning, Roman realized that his promise to never give up on the game had led to something far greater than personal success. He had helped create a place where basketball wasn't just played, it was lived, taught, and passed on, and A place where every bounce of the ball carried the echo of dreams being born, challenges being overcome, and lives being changed. As the last shots fell and the lights dimmed, Roman looked at the eviction notice still framed on the wall. What had seemed like an ending had become the beginning of something extraordinary, a reminder that sometimes life's greatest assists come disguised as its biggest setbacks. "Ready to call it a day?" Michael asked, gathering the basketballs. Roman looked around at his expanded basketball family, at Cyrus teaching Rowan a new move, at Phoenix helping younger kids with their form, at parents and children sharing. Moments that would become lasting memories. "Actually," he said, smiling, "I think we're just getting started."